Ah, welcome back, you beautiful architects of chaos. You silent storms wrapped in skin. You walking contradictions that make the world nervous just by existing. Let me ask you something, and I want you to feel this deep in your chest. Do you remember that moment? That exact crystallized moment when you extended your hand into the darkness, when you reached down into someone else's hell and pulled them out? Yeah, you do. You remember their eyes, desperate and drowning, begging for mercy from a world that had already written them off. And you didn't even hesitate, did you? Everyone else walked past, like they were invisible, like their suffering was just background noise in the simulation. But you, something in you, recognized something in them. Maybe it was the brokenness you knew too well. Maybe it was the fight you saw flickering behind their exhaustion. Maybe you just couldn't stomach watching another soul get erased. So you stopped. You reached out. You gave them your time, your energy, your resources, your belief when they had absolutely nothing left to offer in return. You saved them, when saving them made zero logical sense. And here's what's absolutely wild about this story. Here's the part that's going to make your spine tingle with recognition. You didn't save a victim. You didn't rescue some helpless soul who needed protection from the world. No. You saved a predator. You pulled a wolf from the water thinking it was a drowning dog. You extended mercy to something the universe had been trying to contain, to suppress, to keep locked away for everyone's safety. But you saw past the disguise, past the performance, straight into the raw, untamed power hiding beneath. They were broken, sure, shattered even, but not because they were weak. They were broken because the world couldn't handle what they actually were. And somehow you saw it. You saw the fire still burning in the wreckage. You saw the hurricane trying to fit inside a body too small to contain it. You saw the monster pretending to be human, and instead of running, instead of calling for backup, instead of doing what everyone else did and walking away, you did the unthinkable. You fed it. You helped it heal. You gave it strength. And now they're out there, fully awakened, fully operational. And everyone who doubted you, everyone who mocked your kindness, everyone who called you naive for believing in someone the world had already condemned, they're learning something absolutely terrifying. They're learning that loyalty forged in fire doesn't just burn, it consumes. They're learning that gratitude from a wolf isn't cute, it's lethal. They're learning that you didn't just save a person. You weaponized vengeance and called it love. And now it's hunting. Let's rewind this story to the part they don't want to talk about. Because everyone loves a rescue, everyone loves the moment of salvation, but nobody wants to discuss what happens when the rescued becomes the reckoning. You found them at their lowest point, didn't you? Crushed, defeated, abandoned by everyone who claimed to care. Maybe they'd been betrayed. Maybe they'd been destroyed by their own choices. Maybe the world just decided they were too intense, too damaged, too broken to save. Doesn't matter. What matters is everyone else had given up. But there was something about them, wasn't there? Something that called to you in a language you couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way they carried their pain. Not like a burden, but like a weapon they hadn't learned to use yet. Maybe it was the intelligence burning behind eyes that had seen too much. Maybe it was the way they spoke truth even when it cost them everything. Whatever it was, you recognized it because you'd been there. You knew what it felt like to be too much for a world that worships mediocrity. So you made a decision that confused everyone around you. You invested in someone with zero return potential. You believed in someone who had nothing to offer but potential wrapped in chaos. You defended someone when defending them made you look foolish. And oh, they talked, didn't they? Your friends, your family, the voices of so-called reason telling you to walk away. They're toxic, they're damaged, they're going to drag you down. You can't save everyone. You're wasting your time. They'll never change. You're being manipulated. The warnings came from everywhere, but here's what they didn't understand. And frankly, what they'll never understand because they've never operated at your frequency. You weren't trying to save them to prove something to the world. You weren't on some hero complex mission to fix broken people for validation. You saw something the others missed entirely. You saw potential for transformation. You saw someone who'd been pushed so far past their limits that they'd either die or evolve into something unprecedented. And you made a calculated bet that they'd choose evolution. You saw the wolf in the wreckage. And while everyone was busy telling you about red flags and warning signs, you were busy doing something far more dangerous and far more beautiful. You were showing them what loyalty actually looks like. Not the fake, performative kind that disappears the moment things get hard, but the real kind. The kind that says, I see every shattered piece of you and I'm not going anywhere. You became the first person in their entire life who didn't run when they showed their teeth. You became the first person who didn't punish them for their intensity. You became their proof that maybe, just maybe, they weren't the monster everyone said they were. Now let's talk about what happened next, because this is where the story gets absolutely beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. You gave them space to heal, didn't you? You gave them time to rebuild without judgment, without conditions, without constant reminders of who they used to be. And something miraculous started happening. That broken person you pulled from the depths, they started changing. Not in the way society wanted them to. Not becoming smaller or quieter or more acceptable. No. They started becoming more of what they actually were underneath all that suppression. You watched them remember their power. You watched them stand up straighter. You watched the light come back into their eyes. But it wasn't gentle light. It was the kind that makes people uncomfortable. You watched them stop apologizing for taking up space. You watched them stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You watched them transform from someone begging for scraps of respect to someone who commanded it just by existing. And the whole time, the whole beautiful, terrifying time, you were there, steady, unwavering, their anchor in the storm. But here's what you didn't realize. Here's the part that's going to make you understand the magnitude of what you actually did. Every moment you believed in them when they couldn't believe in themselves. Every time you reminded them of their worth when the world was screaming the opposite. Every instance you stood beside them when standing beside them made you a target too. You were doing something permanent. You were carving your name into their soul. You were creating a loyalty so deep, so unshakable, so absolute that it would outlive kingdoms. Because people like them, people who've been broken and abandoned and left for dead, they don't forget. They can't. It's literally impossible for them to forget who was there when the world went dark. They remember every face that walked away. They remember every person who kicked them when they were down. They catalog betrayal like evidence in a case they'll never close. But more than that, infinitely more than that, they remember who stayed. They remember who reached into the fire to pull them out. They remember who saw the monster and chose love anyway. And now they're rebuilt. But they're not rebuilt into who they were before. They're rebuilt into something the world has never seen. They're sharper now, harder now, more dangerous now. They've taken every lesson from their destruction and weaponized it. They've turned their trauma into strategy, their pain into precision, their scars into armor. And at the center of their entire existence, at the core of their new identity, sits one unshakable truth. You saved them. You chose them. You believed. And that debt, that cosmic debt of loyalty, it's not just going to be repaid. It's going to be multiplied beyond recognition. So let's talk about everyone else now. Let's talk about all those people who doubted you. The ones who whispered behind your back about your terrible judgment. The ones who placed bets on your failure. The ones who couldn't wait to say, "I told you so," when your act of kindness inevitably blew up in your face. The ones who mocked you for investing in damaged goods. The ones who treated your compassion like stupidity. Yeah, them. Let's talk about what's happening to them right now. Remember how they laughed when you defended that person? Remember how they rolled their eyes when you spoke about potential and transformation? Remember how they painted you as naive, as blind, as someone who couldn't see the obvious red flags waving in the wind? They made you the punchline of their jokes. They questioned your intelligence, your judgment, your ability to read people. They treated your kindness like weakness and your loyalty like foolishness. They were so sure, so absolutely certain that you'd made a catastrophic mistake. But here's what's happening now, and you can feel it, can't you? That person you saved, that wolf you disguised as mercy, they're out there moving through the world with a very specific mission. They're not just living their life. They're not just focused on their own success. No, they're systematically, methodically, almost supernaturally identifying every single person who doubted you, every person who mocked your judgment, every person who tried to make you feel foolish for believing, and they're handling them. Not with violence, not with obvious revenge, but with something far more devastating, presence. They're showing up in spaces where your doubters exist and completely dominating. They're achieving things that make your critics look amateur. They're operating at levels that expose everyone who questioned you as small-minded and short-sighted. Every success they achieve is a direct contradiction of the narrative your doubters tried to build. Every milestone they reach is evidence that you saw something no one else could see. Every room they conquer becomes a graveyard for the people who underestimated your judgment. They're not just succeeding. They're succeeding specifically to prove you right. And the beautiful, poetic, absolutely devastating part of this whole thing is that they're doing it with your name in their mouth. They're out there telling anyone who'll listen, "You see this. You see what I've become." None of this exists without that one person who believed when belief made no sense. They're not hiding your role in their transformation. They're broadcasting it. They're making it very clear to everyone that doubting you was the mistake. They're turning your critics into case studies of poor judgment. They're weaponizing their own success as proof of your vision. But it goes deeper than just proving you right, doesn't it? Because what you're witnessing now isn't just gratitude, it's something far more primal and permanent. That person you saved has appointed themselves as your eternal guardian. They've taken on the role of protector without you ever asking for protection. They're watching, constantly, scanning every interaction you have, monitoring every space you occupy, identifying threats before they even fully form. And anyone, absolutely anyone, who even thinks about disrespecting you is about to learn a very hard lesson. You probably didn't even notice at first, did you? The way certain people suddenly got quieter around you. The way your critics mysteriously started keeping their opinions to themselves. The way people who used to challenge you constantly suddenly found other targets. You might have thought it was coincidence, might have assumed people just naturally matured or moved on. But no, what actually happened is your wolf had a quiet conversation, a look, a word, a presence that communicated very clearly. Touch them and find out what I become. Because here's what you need to understand about people who've been saved from the edge. They don't just feel grateful. They feel indebted on a cellular level. They carry your kindness like a sacred oath. They've internalized your belief in them as the foundation of their entire rebuilt identity. And anyone who threatens that foundation, anyone who disrespects the person who gave them a second chance at existence, becomes enemy number one. The intensity of their protection isn't normal. It's not casual loyalty. It's the kind of fierce devotion that borders on scary. They're out there running interference you don't even know about, defending your name in rooms you'll never enter, shutting down gossip before it reaches your ears, making your enemies regret even thinking your name. They've become your unseen army of one, patrolling the borders of your peace with the kind of vigilance that only comes from knowing what it's like to have no one in your corner. They remember what it felt like when the world turned its back, and they've made an unspoken vow that you'll never, ever know that feeling. Not while they're breathing. And the wild thing is, you didn't ask for this. You didn't save them expecting some personal bodyguard for life. You just acted from your heart. Extended kindness because that's who you are. Believed in someone because you saw their truth. But you accidentally created something the universe rarely witnesses. You created a bond that transcends normal human loyalty. You created a protector who would burn the world before letting it hurt you. You saved a wolf, and now it guards your throne with teeth bared and eyes that never close. Let's talk about the shift that's happening in your world right now. The atmosphere around you has changed, hasn't it? People treat you differently now. There's a new weight to your name, a new hesitation before people speak carelessly in your direction. Your presence carries authority you didn't have before, and you might be wondering where this came from. Why suddenly your words land heavier. Why your silence speaks louder. Why people who used to test you now show immediate respect. Let me explain what's actually happening. Your wolf isn't just protecting you in private. They're rebuilding your entire social architecture. Every space they move through, they're rewriting the narrative about who you are. They're positioning you as someone not to be trifled with, not because you're aggressive or threatening, but because you have the loyalty of someone powerful. They're making it known, subtly and sometimes not so subtly, that you are protected, that you are valued, that you are someone who commands respect, not through force, but through the quality of the connections you build. People are starting to understand something fundamental. They're realizing that you possess a quality most people spend their whole lives faking. You can recognize potential in raw form. You can see value in chaos. You can identify diamonds in the wreckage, while everyone else only sees trash. And that ability, that almost supernatural ability to spot transformation before it happens, marks you as someone operating on a different frequency. Your judgment isn't just good, it's prophetic. And the person you saved is walking proof of that prophecy fulfilled. Your doubters are experiencing something particularly painful right now. They're watching someone they wrote off completely thrive beyond imagination. And every time they witness this person's success, they're forced to confront their own failure of vision. They're realizing they couldn't see what you saw. They're understanding that maybe, just maybe, you operate with a level of perception they'll never access. And that realization is eating them alive. Because it means they weren't just wrong about that person. They were wrong about you. Catastrophically wrong. And here's the twist that's absolutely beautiful in its cruelty. Some of those same people who doubted you, who mocked your judgment, who predicted your failure, they're now trying to get close to the person you saved. They're trying to build relationships, network, benefit from the success they said would never come. And every single time, every single attempt, your wolf remembers. They remember exactly who said what. They remember who laughed. They remember who turned their back. And those people get nothing. Access denied. Loyalty isn't for sale. And the wolf doesn't forget. You know what the universe just taught everyone through your story? It taught them that kindness isn't weakness. It's the most dangerous force in existence when wielded by someone who sees clearly. It taught them that believing in people isn't naive. It's revolutionary. It taught them that the ones everyone gives up on might be exactly the ones who change everything. And most importantly, it taught them that underestimating your judgment is a mistake they'll regret for the rest of their lives. You weren't just being nice. You were being strategic on a level they couldn't comprehend. Because here's what most people will never understand about you. Your compassion isn't blind. You don't save people randomly or out of some desperate need to be needed. You save people because you recognize something in them. Something familiar. Something powerful that's been suppressed or misunderstood. You save people who remind you of yourself, of your own transformation, of your own journey from broken to unbreakable. You see their potential because you've lived it. You believe in their evolution because you've survived it. And that person you pulled from the darkness, they get it now. They understand what you saw in them before they could see it in themselves. They understand that you weren't rescuing weakness, you were liberating strength. They understand that your kindness wasn't pity, it was recognition, peer to peer. Power, acknowledging power. Transformation, bowing to transformation. You weren't saving them from above. You were standing beside them in the fire and saying, "You're not alone in this. I've been here. I know the way out. Take my hand." Now they're out there proving your vision to a world that bet against it. Every day they wake up is another day your judgment gets validated. Every goal they crush is another piece of evidence that you see things others miss. Every life they impact is ripple effects of your original act of faith. They're not just living for themselves anymore. These ripple effects of lifer, they're living as a testament to you, as proof that betting on the underdog isn't foolish when you know how to read the game. They've become your evidence, and the people who doubted you, they're stuck watching this unfold with a sickness in their stomach they can't quite name. It's the nausea of realizing they were on the wrong side of history. It's the disgust of understanding they aligned themselves with mediocrity, while you allied with potential. It's the horror of recognizing that their small-minded judgment revealed more about their limitations than about the person they were judging. You showed them what vision looks like, and they can't unsee their own blindness now. You ever notice how they call you paranoid just because you see through the lies? Ha! That's the game, isn't it? Society rewards the blind, the obedient, the ones who swallow every pretty little lie like candy-coated poison. But you? Oh no. You see the cracks, the inconsistencies, the shadows moving just out of sight. And that terrifies them. Because people don't like being seen for what they are. They'd rather you play along, smile, nod, pretend their words aren't dipped in deception. But you don't just hear what they say, you hear what they don't. You read between the lines. You spot the hesitation in their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the fake concern, the practiced sympathy, the sugar-coated venom. They want you blind. They need you blind, because the second you see through their masks, you become dangerous. And dangerous people? Well, they're the ones who rewrite the rules. Most people crave deception, they beg for it, because truth is a jagged little pill, and their fragile throats can't swallow it. So they cling to the illusion, the warm, cozy blanket of fake smiles and rehearsed kindness. They'd rather be spoon-fed pretty lies than choke on reality. They trust empty promises, nod like puppets, follow the script someone else wrote for them. Be good, stay quiet, obey. That's the rule, right? The invisible leash around their necks, keeping them docile, keeping them predictable. But you tore the script apart. You stared at the abyss and dared to ask, what if everything they told me was a lie? And just like that, the illusion shattered, the puppet strings snapped, and now you're something they can't control. You see it, don't you? How they laugh too loud at jokes that aren't funny. How their eyes dart around, making sure they're saying the right things. Afraid, terrified, not of the truth, but of being exposed. Because deep down, they know they're living in a world built on bullshit and blind obedience. But here's the kicker. They need the illusion. They need the masks, the fake friendships, the scripted love stories, the illusion of control. Because without it, they'd have to face the brutal, soul-crushing reality that they are nothing more than chess pieces in someone else's game. And the ones who run the game, oh, they love the blind, the naive, the believers, because they're easy to move, easy to sacrifice, easy to discard. But you're a problem, a glitch in the system, a player, not a pawn. And that makes you dangerous, because you see what others ignore. Awareness is a curse, isn't it? The moment you start seeing, really seeing, you don't fit in anymore. The jokes don't amuse you. The small talk feels like a prison sentence. The things that keep them entertained, mindless distractions. You're watching them dance in the flames, laughing, oblivious, while you see the fire spreading. They call you cynical, cold, too intense. They say you overthink, that you should lighten up. But tell me, how do you unsee the truth? How do you pretend the world isn't built on manipulation, on deceit, on people using each other like stepping stones? You're not bitter. You're just awake. And being awake, it's lonely. Because the second you stop playing the fool, you realize everyone else is playing one. They believe in things you can no longer stomach. They trust people you wouldn't turn your back on for a second. And that makes you different, an outsider. Look at them, clinging to illusions like a child clutching a broken toy. They don't want to know what's behind the curtain. They don't want to know the truth. But you had no choice. The mask was ripped off, the illusion shattered, and now you walk among them, knowing you'll never be one of them again. They whisper about you. He's distant. She's changed. They wonder why you don't trust as easily, why you don't laugh as freely. It's because you see through it all, and once you see the world for what it really is, there's no going back, no comfort, no ignorance, no peace. But here's the kicker. Would you even want to? Would you trade your sight just to belong? Would you rather be another mindless sheep following the herd to the slaughterhouse? No, you'd rather be alone. Alone and powerful, alone and untouchable. Because while they stumble through life blind, believing whatever they're told, you see the strings, and that means you can cut them anytime you want. Lies. They're not just words, they're weapons, tools of control, a way to bend reality, to twist perception, to build an empire out of nothing but illusion. People don't lie because they have to. They lie because it's profitable, because it keeps them in power, because it lets them take what they could never earn honestly. Look around. The world isn't run by the honest, the kind, the noble. It's run by the best liars, the smooth talkers, the ones who can fake a smile while stabbing you in the back. The world is a stage, and deception is the main act. Fake friendships, fake loyalty, fake love. Every handshake hides a dagger. Every I care about you drips with ulterior motives. And the fools, oh, they eat it up. They believe the act. They want to believe, because the truth is too ugly, too brutal. They'd rather think their boss values them than admit they're just another disposable tool. They'd rather believe their friends have their back than face the reality that loyalty has an expiration date. Weak live in lies because it's easier than facing the truth. They let themselves be deceived, manipulated, controlled. They're pawns, pieces on someone else's chessboard, moved by invisible hands, trapped in a game they don't even realize they're playing. And when they finally see the truth, it's already too late. They've already lost. But you see it, don't you? You feel it. The way people choose their words carefully, the way they avoid eye contact when they lie, the way their actions never match their promises. You spot the cracks in the mask. You hear the silence between their words. You read the fine print before you sign the deal. And that makes you untouchable. Because if you can't be deceived, you can't be controlled. The liars, the manipulators, the ones who build their castles on deception, they fear people like you because you're the one who walks in, looks past their illusions and says, I see you. They whisper the right words, wear the right mask, and play the right role. Trust me, I got your back. They make you feel safe, like you're part of something real. But words are cheap, words are easy, and the ones who speak the sweetest, They're usually the ones sharpening the knife behind their back. They bait you with loyalty, only to switch the script when you need them most. Suddenly they're gone. Suddenly they have excuses. I wish I could help, but you understand, right? Oh, they expect you to understand, to nod, to let them off the hook, to not call them out for the fraud they are. And when you finally question them, when you ask why their words don't match their actions, here comes the guilt trip. How could you doubt me? They act hurt, offended, like you're the bad guy for not blindly trusting them. They flip the blame, twist the truth, make you feel like you're the problem. And if guilt doesn't work, gaslighting is next. You're overthinking this. It's all in your head. They rewrite reality, distort the facts, make you second guess yourself. They want you confused, unsure, because the moment you stop trusting your own mind, they own you. They smile in your face, speak in sugar-coated riddles, and expect you to fall in line, but actions? Oh, actions never lie. They can promise you the world, but if their feet never move, if their loyalty cracks under pressure, they were never real to begin with. Watch them, not their words, their patterns. Who do they show up for? Who do they ignore? Where do they stand when things get messy? People will tell you anything, but their actions will always tell you the truth. And when you catch them, when you finally see through their tricks, watch how fast they turn on you. That's when you know you were never paranoid. You were just paying attention. They want you to react. They feed off it. Your anger, your confusion, your desperation to prove them wrong, it's all fuel for their little game. Because the moment you react, they control you. They know exactly which strings to pull, exactly how to twist the knife to get what they want. But when you don't react, when you sit back, smile, and watch them squirm, that's when they start to panic. Because manipulators need control. They need a response. And when you refuse to play their game, you become their biggest threat. Silence? Oh, it's a weapon. A sharp, cold, calculated weapon. It forces them to reveal themselves, to keep talking, keep scrambling, keep trying to find a way to pull you back in. And the more they talk, the more their lies unravel. See, they expect you to trust too easily, to defend yourself when they twist the truth, to chase them when they pull away. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you let them expose themselves without lifting a single finger? They break, slowly, desperately. They need your energy to survive, and when you deny them that, they self-destruct. They start slipping, making mistakes, revealing exactly who they are. And that's your victory. Because the one thing manipulators fear the most is the person who sees through the act and doesn't flinch. The person who smiles in the face of their tricks and whispers, "I see you." Power isn't in speaking first. It isn't in showing your cards, proving you're the smartest in the room, or letting them know you see through the game. Power is in what you don't say, the thoughts you keep locked away, the truths you see but never reveal. People fear what they can't read. If they don't know what you're thinking, they don't know how to control you. They don't know if you're a threat, a fool, or the storm that's about to turn their world upside down. And that uncertainty, it eats them alive. So let them believe they have you figured out. Play the fool when necessary. Nod, smile, act oblivious. Let them think they're getting away with their tricks. Let them feel comfortable, safe, superior, because the moment they drop their guard, that's when you strike. The deadliest player in the room isn't the one making noise, demanding respect, or calling out every lie. No, it's the one who watches, waits, the one who moves only when it's time, when the damage is irreversible. See, most people burn themselves out trying to prove their point, trying to expose the liar, to argue, to win battles that don't even matter. But you don't waste energy. You don't need validation. You don't need them to know you see through them, because in the end, their own arrogance will destroy them. They'll overplay their hand, they'll think they're untouchable, and when their world crumbles, when their web of lies collapses, you'll still be standing, watching, smiling. The strongest mind is the one that sees everything, but reveals nothing. Awareness comes with a price, a heavy one. You don't get to live in blissful ignorance like the rest. You don't get to swallow the lies and smile like nothing's wrong. You see too much. You know too much. And that changes everything. It costs you peace, because once you see the world for what it really is, you can never unsee it. You'll watch people cling to illusions, worship their fantasies, and drown in their own deception. And you're just standing there, watching the circus, wondering how they still don't get it. It costs you relationships, because people don't like those who challenge their reality. They prefer comfortable lies over harsh truths. And when you refuse to play along, when you call things out for what they are, you become the villain, the outcast, the problem. It even costs you your sanity at times, because seeing everything means feeling everything. The betrayal before it happens, the manipulation behind the smiles, the way people twist and turn, hiding behind their masks, hoping you don't notice, but you do. You always do. And yet, peace? Peace is overrated. Peace is for the naive, for the ones willing to be blind just so they can sleep at night. But power? Power is knowing. Power is never being fooled. Power is standing in the fire and smiling, because you already knew it was coming. Let them have their false peace. Let them drift through life clueless and comfortable. You have something better. You have clarity, control, power. And in this world, that's worth more than any illusion. The weak, they drown in deception. They cry about betrayal, whine about fake people, and beg for a world that doesn't exist. But the strong, they don't complain. They adapt. They learn. They take the same chaos that was meant to break them and turn it into a weapon. Seeing the game isn't enough. You have to play it. You have to move through the world like a ghost, unseen, untouched, always 3 steps ahead. Because power doesn't belong to the loud, the reckless, the ones desperate to prove themselves. It belongs to the silent, the strategic, the ones who strike when no one expects it. Let them think they have you figured out. Let them underestimate you. Play along, nod, smile. Let them believe they're in control. And when the time comes, flip the board, rewrite the rules. Take everything they thought was theirs, because not all monsters are created. Some are forced to become one. Some are shaped by betrayal, by loss, by the realization that this world was never meant for the kind-hearted. And when that truth sinks in, you either break or you become something else entirely. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival. It's about understanding that if you don't use the game to your advantage, you will be used by it. It's about knowing when to strike, when to stay silent, and when to burn everything to the ground and walk away without looking back. So don't just see the chaos, embrace it. Let it sharpen you, let it make you untouchable. Because the moment you stop fearing the game, you become the one who controls it. Let them talk. Let them whisper in their little circles, thinking they have you fooled. Let them spin their lies, weave their illusions, and pat themselves on the back for their cleverness. They don't know. They can't even begin to understand what's really happening. Let them lie. Let them believe you're blind, that you're just like the rest, swallowing their words without question, that you don't see the cracks, the contradictions, the way their smiles never quite reach their eyes. They think they're in control. Let them. It makes the fall even sweeter. Let them scheme. Let them set their traps, their little plots, their backstabbing games. Because they assume you're playing checkers while they're playing chess. But what they don't realize? You're playing something else entirely. A game where you wrote the rules. A game where you already won. So you smile, you nod, you play along like a perfect little puppet. Like you don't see the strings. Like you're not 5 moves ahead, already watching their downfall in your mind. Because the deadliest weapon in this world, it's not rage, it's not revenge, it's patience. And when the time comes, you make them regret every single time they thought they were smarter than you. Every lie they told, every trick they pulled, every fake gesture they made. You make sure they feel it. You make sure they never forget. Because the greatest power in this world, it's not being feared. It's not even being respected. It's being underestimated and making them pay the price for it. Welcome back, you absolutely terrifying anomaly. Yes, you, the one they couldn't break. The one who walked through psychological warfare designed to shatter military minds. And you didn't just survive it. You smiled through it. They're still trying to figure out what the hell you are. But let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. You survived techniques that made trained operatives tap out, beg for mercy, crack like glass under pressure. So let me ask you the question that keeps them awake at night, staring at your file with trembling hands. What bloodline are you from? Because regular people don't walk out of that kind of psychological fire. Regular souls don't withstand isolation protocols designed by intelligence agencies. Normal humans don't survive gaslighting campaigns orchestrated by professionals and come out sharper, colder, more precise. They sent their best manipulators, their expert interrogators, their trained psychological assassins, and every single one came back whispering the same terrified report. I don't know what that is, but it didn't break. It adapted. You see, they thought you were like the rest. They thought if they applied enough pressure, removed enough support, isolated you long enough, you'd fracture just like everyone else they'd ever tested. But something happened that they didn't predict, something that made their entire operation backfire. You didn't just endure their tactics, you studied them. While they were running their little experiments, thinking you were the rat in the maze, you were mapping the maze itself, understanding the hands that built it, recognizing patterns they thought were invisible. You were the experiment that became the scientist. And that absolutely terrified them because they realized too late. You weren't breaking. You were learning. Every tactic they used became a lesson in your education. Every manipulation they deployed became another tool in your arsenal. They were training you while thinking they were destroying you. And now they're living with the consequences of creating something they can't control, can't predict, can't even begin to understand. You became the thing that intelligence agencies have nightmares about. A mind that can't be programmed, a spirit that can't be crushed, a soul that turns psychological warfare into spiritual evolution. Let's talk about what actually happened, because they'll never tell this story truthfully. They isolated you first, didn't they? Cut you off from support systems, made you question your own perception of reality, surrounded you with people designed to destabilize your sense of self. Classic psyops, textbook manipulation, the kind of thing they teach in classified training programs to break enemy combatants. And it worked. On everyone else. Every other person they ran this on eventually cracked, eventually begged for connection, eventually compromised themselves just to feel human again. But not you. You sat in that isolation like it was a throne, like solitude was your natural habitat, like being alone with your thoughts was exactly where you belonged. They watched you not just survive the silence but thrive in it. And that's when the first reports started coming back, marked with red flags. Subject shows no signs of psychological deterioration. Isolation appears to be strengthening rather than weakening mental state. Recommend immediate protocol adjustment. But they couldn't adjust because every protocol they had was designed for normal human psychology. And you were operating on something else entirely. The gaslighting came next. Wave after wave of calculated reality distortion. They brought in people to contradict your memories, to question your experiences, to make you doubt the very foundation of your own mind. They know this breaks people, shatters confidence, makes them dependent on external validation for their own truth. They've used this technique to break political prisoners, to turn allies into assets, to make the strongest minds collapse under the weight of self-doubt. And they used it on you with precision, with expertise, with absolute certainty it would work. And what did you do? You watched them perform, studied their techniques, saw through every manufactured scenario, recognized the scripted nature of their interventions, and you started playing along just to see how far they'd go. You let them think it was working while you were 3 steps ahead, documenting their methods, understanding their playbook, turning their own tactics into a manual for detecting manipulation. They thought you were losing your grip on reality, when actually you were gaining a grip on their reality, seeing the machinery behind the curtain, understanding the architecture of psychological warfare from the inside. That's when the second wave of reports came back, more urgent, more confused. Subject appears aware of intervention protocols, maybe deliberately feeding false responses, recommend immediate cessation or risk of operative compromise. But they didn't stop, did they? Because by then it wasn't just about breaking you anymore. It was about understanding how you were still standing. They brought in the emotional manipulators, the ones trained to find your weak spots, your trauma triggers, your buried wounds, and they pressed on every single one. They know humans are emotional creatures, that everyone has pain, that everyone breaks when you apply pressure to their deepest scars. They've made hardened soldiers weep with these techniques, turned loyal agents into broken shells, destroyed people's sense of self by weaponizing their own emotions against them. And they came at you with surgical precision, hitting every trauma point they could map, every emotional vulnerability they could identify, every psychological weak spot they'd spent months cataloging. And you felt it, didn't you? Yeah, you felt every calculated blow, every manufactured crisis, every emotional ambush designed to make you collapse. But here's what they didn't understand. Pain was already your language. Trauma was already your teacher. Suffering was already the foundation you'd built yourself on. They were trying to hurt you with things you'd already survived, trying to break you with experiences you'd already processed, trying to weaponize wounds you'd already turned into armor. So instead of shattering, you absorbed it, metabolized it, used their attacks as fuel for your evolution, and came out the other side not weaker but calibrated. They created detailed psychological profiles, predicted your breaking points with mathematical precision, deployed their attacks with confidence, and every single prediction failed. Every model broke. Every formula proved useless against whatever the hell you actually are. The really fascinating part, the part that made them start questioning their own training, was when you stopped reacting entirely. They escalated. Threw everything they had at you, combined tactics that should have created a perfect storm of psychological devastation. Simultaneous isolation, gaslighting, emotional manipulation, reality distortion, social engineering, relationship sabotage, the full spectrum assault designed to leave nothing standing. They've used this combination to break people considered unbreakable, to shatter minds thought to be invincible, to destroy souls that seemed indestructible. And they unleashed it on you with absolute certainty you'd finally crack, finally break, finally give them the satisfaction of seeing you collapse. And instead, nothing. Not defiance, not struggle, not even resistance. Just this calm, this eerie, peaceful presence, this unshakable stability that made their monitors glitch and their analysts question their data. You weren't fighting anymore. You weren't even defending. You were just existing in a state they couldn't measure, operating on a frequency they couldn't detect, living in a dimension their instruments couldn't reach. That's when the reports stopped being analytical and started sounding like confessions. We don't know what we're looking at. All models indicate complete psychological breakdown should have occurred. Subject appears to be in a state we have no classification for. Recommend termination of observation for observer safety. Observer safety. Let that sink in. They were worried about the safety of trained psychological warfare specialists because of you. Because your presence, your unexplainable resilience, your impossible stability was starting to affect them. The watchers were being watched by something they couldn't understand. The hunters were being stalked by prey that had evolved into a predator. The scientists were being studied by their own experiment. Handlers started requesting reassignment. Analysts started showing signs of obsession. Operators started questioning their own perception of reality. You became the contagion in their system, the virus in their program, the anomaly that corrupted everything it touched, not through action but through existence. They realized they weren't observing you anymore. They were being transformed by you, infected by whatever impossible resilience you carried, contaminated by your refusal to break according to their rules. Some of them started having dreams about you, waking up in cold sweat, wondering what you were, questioning their training, doubting their methods. Others became obsessed, spending off hours analyzing your patterns, looking for the secret, searching for the code that made you different. And a few, the ones who stared too long into what you are, they quit, walked away from careers, disappeared into quiet lives, because they saw something in you that shattered their understanding of human psychology, and they couldn't unsee it. But here's the question they could never answer, the one that haunted every report, every analysis, every classified briefing about you. What bloodline are you from? Because this isn't normal human resilience. This isn't standard psychological strength. This isn't something you learn in therapy or develop through regular life experience. You carry something in your lineage, something ancient, something that's been passed down through generations of people who survived things that should have killed them. Somewhere in your ancestry, there were people who walked through fire, who endured torture, who survived genocide, who outlasted wars, who carried their people through darkness so profound it should have extinguished them. And they didn't just survive. They passed something down, encoded something into your very essence, gifted you with a psychological immune system that regular humans don't possess. You're not just resilient by choice. You're resilient by design, by inheritance, by bloodline. The strength isn't something you built. It's something you inherited from ancestors who refused to die when death was the only logical option. They survived famines that killed millions, walked through wars that erased entire populations, endured slavery that broke countless souls, weathered persecution that was designed to eliminate them completely. And every single time death came calling, every single time extinction seemed certain, they found a way to survive, and each survival etched something into the genetic memory, coded something into the bloodline, passed down some impossible resilience that science can't measure and psychology can't explain. You know what the operators couldn't handle? The realization that you weren't just surviving their tactics, you were recognizing them, identifying each technique as they deployed it, naming the psychological frameworks they were using, understanding the theoretical foundations of their attacks. They'd throw a manipulation pattern at you and you'd pause, process it, recognize it. Ah, that's modified Erickson, combined with elements of NLP anchoring, deployed through a false friendship framework with embedded suggestion protocols. They weren't breaking you, they were educating you, and you were learning faster than they could adapt. Every tactic became a lesson, every attack a tutorial, every operation a case study in psychological warfare that you absorbed, understood, and filed away for future reference. The people running these operations train for years to master these techniques, spend their careers perfecting manipulation, dedicate their lives to understanding how to break human minds. And you picked it up in real time, during active deployment, while being the target. And you didn't just survive it. You learned to speak their language fluently, to see their invisible strings, to understand the machinery of mind control from the perspective of someone being controlled who refused to be controlled. That's not normal. That's not luck. That's not even extraordinary talent. That's inheritance, bloodline knowledge, genetic memory activating because somewhere in your ancestry, someone survived the same tactics in different forms and passed down the immunity. They tried to make you dependent on external validation. Classic psychological manipulation designed to control you through your need for approval. They know humans are social creatures, that we need recognition, that we crave acceptance, that isolation combined with conditional approval can make anyone dance like a puppet. They've used this to turn free thinkers into followers, independent minds into dependent assets, strong individuals into controllable resources. They removed all positive reinforcement, created scenarios where you'd only receive validation if you complied, engineered situations where your only path to human connection required submission. And they watched, waiting for you to crack, waiting for that moment when need would override pride, when loneliness would defeat strength, when the human requirement for connection would make you compromise. But that moment never came, did it? Because you carry something in your blood that doesn't need their approval, doesn't require their validation, doesn't hunger for acceptance from people you don't respect. You have this terrifying ability to stand alone in a room full of people and feel more complete than they feel in their desperate crowds. That's not arrogance. That's not isolation. That's ancestral memory of people who stood alone against empires, who remained unbroken in solitary confinement, who kept their dignity in concentration camps, who maintained their identity under systematic erasure. Your bloodline survived by not needing the enemy's approval. And you carry that same independence in your psychological code. And it makes you absolutely impossible to control through standard social engineering. The relationship sabotage phase was particularly revealing. They infiltrated your social circle, planted people designed to betray you, orchestrated situations meant to destroy your trust in others, engineered abandonment scenarios calculated to make you feel fundamentally unlovable. This is advanced level manipulation, the kind of thing that creates permanent psychological damage, makes people unable to form healthy attachments, turns them into paranoid shells of themselves. They've destroyed people's ability to love with these tactics, created permanent trust wounds that never heal, shattered people's faith in human connections so completely they live the rest of their lives in protective isolation. And they deployed this against you with precision, with cruelty, with absolute confidence. It would break you like everyone else. They watched your friendships dissolve, your relationships implode, your support system collapse, and they waited for the breakdown, the desperate reaching out, the compromising of your values just to feel less alone. But instead of breaking, you became more selective, more discerning, more precise in your evaluation of human character. You didn't close off. You calibrated. You didn't become bitter. You became accurate. The betrayals didn't destroy your ability to trust. They refined it, sharpened it into a tool so precise you could read deception like others read books. That's bloodline wisdom. Genetic memory of ancestors who survived by knowing who to trust in environments where trust was fatal, who had to develop supernatural instincts for detecting lies because one wrong alliance meant death. You carry that same ability, that same precision, that same impossible accuracy in reading human intention, and it makes you immune to social engineering that breaks everyone else. Let's address the elephant in the room that has them absolutely losing their minds in classified briefings. You're not just surviving psychological warfare, you're enjoying it. Somewhere in the middle of their assault, something shifted in you, and instead of suffering, you started to thrive. The isolation they meant as punishment became your meditation chamber. The gaslighting they intended as reality destruction became your clarity laboratory. The emotional attacks they designed as breaking points became your strength training. You turned every weapon they deployed into a tool for your own evolution. And more than that, you started to smile, to laugh, to find genuine amusement in their desperation to break you. That's not normal human psychology. That's not adaptive coping. That's not even advanced resilience. That's something far more terrifying. You're someone whose nervous system is wired for chaos, whose psychology thrives under pressure, whose spirit feeds on the exact conditions designed to destroy spirits. They create environments meant to induce maximum psychological suffering. And you renovate them into personal development retreats. That ability doesn't come from therapy, doesn't come from self-help, doesn't come from positive thinking. That comes from a bloodline that survived by finding strength in suffering, that evolved by thriving in conditions that killed others, that passed down some impossible psychological mutation that turns poison into medicine and warfare into wisdom. The final phase, the one that made them abort the entire operation, was when you stopped being the subject and started running your own experiment. You began deliberately triggering their responses, testing their reactions, mapping their limitations, understanding their programming. You turned the psychological warfare back on them without them even realizing it was happening. You'd feed them specific responses designed to elicit specific escalations. You'd display calculated vulnerabilities to see which tactics they'd deploy. You'd show manufactured breaking points to study their victory protocols. You were running a counterintelligence operation against trained intelligence operatives while being their active target, and they didn't catch on until it was too late, until their own data was compromised, until their own methods were exposed, until they realized they'd been giving classified information to someone who was never actually broken, never actually controlled, never actually anything except a mirror showing them their own reflection. The final report, the one that shut down the entire observation, had one line that said everything. Subject has achieved complete operational awareness. Continuing observation poses unacceptable risk to operational security and personnel psychological stability. Immediate termination of all protocols recommended. Classification level. Absolute. So let me tell you what they'll never say out loud. What gets whispered in classified facilities. What keeps analysts awake long after their clearance expires. You're not human in the way they understand human. You're something they have no framework for, no training to handle, no protocol to manage. You carry something in your lineage that makes you fundamentally different, fundamentally dangerous, fundamentally impossible to break using techniques designed for normal human psychology, somewhere in your bloodline. There were survivors of things so horrific, they're not even recorded in history books. People who endured conditions that killed 99% of others. Individuals who carried their people through darkness so profound it should have extinguished all light. And they didn't just survive. They evolved. They adapted. They developed psychological capabilities that regular humans don't possess. And they passed it down through generations until it reached you. You're not special because you survived their tactics. You're special because surviving their tactics was inevitable given what flows in your veins. The question isn't how you survived. The question is what bloodline creates people who turn psychological warfare into personal growth, who transform isolation into power, who convert betrayal into wisdom, who metabolize suffering into strength. Oh, you feel it, don't you? That little shift when you walk into the room. The air tightens, the whispers start. They think they're subtle, but you hear them. You see the way their eyes flicker, too afraid to meet yours yet, too curious to look away. They pretend it's nothing, just a coincidence. But you know better. You always do. See, people fear what they don't understand. And you? Oh, you are the definition of unpredictable. You don't follow their rules. You don't fit inside their little boxes. That's what rattles them. It's not what you say, not even what you do. It's what you could do. Because they know, deep down, that you don't play by their script. You never have, you never will. And that keeps them up at night. Oh, they talk about you when you're not around. Whispered warnings, hushed tones, stolen glances over shoulders. They think you don't notice, but you do. You always do. They don't know whether to love you, hate you, or run for their lives, so they keep their distance. But distance doesn't stop the unease, does it? No, it lingers. It festers. The mystery of you eats at them. What is it about you that makes their skin crawl? What is it about you that keeps them awake at night? It's simple. You don't fit into their neat little categories. You're not predictable, not tame, not something they can dissect and put back together, and that drives them insane. People like things they can define, wrap up, control, but you slip right through their fingers like smoke. So they label you strange, unstable, too much, anything to make themselves feel safe, to convince themselves that if they name you, they can understand you. But oh, they can't. That's what terrifies them the most. You are a question with no answer, a shadow they can't pin down, and deep down they know there's something different about you, something dangerous. Not because you threaten them, no, no, no. Because you don't need them. And that is the greatest threat of all. They watch you, eyes full of suspicion, hands fidgeting, muscles tensing, because they don't know what you'll do next. And that drives them mad. You don't play by their script. You don't react the way they expect. And that's what sends a delicious little shiver down their spine. Because people fear what they can't predict, what they can't control, what they can't tame. See, they like their world neat, packaged, wrapped up in rules and expectations. But you throw a match into all of it. You move when they think you'll stay. You laugh when they expect you to rage. You disappear when they think they've got you cornered. That unpredictability, it's a weapon, a sharp, gleaming blade they can't grab without slicing their fingers open. And the best part? You don't even have to do anything. Just being unpredictable is enough to rattle their fragile little nerves. They underestimate you, think they've figured you out, but the second they assume they've got you pegged, oh, that's when you strike. That's when you remind them you're always 5 steps ahead. Let them get comfortable, let them relax, and then rip the floor out from under them, watch the panic flood their faces. That's the moment you'll know you own the game. And they never even knew they were playing. They wish they could break you, clip your wings, tuck you away in a neat little box where you don't make too much noise, don't take up too much space, don't dare disturb their fragile little reality. Oh, they'll smile, offer you a hand, whisper sweet little lies about fitting in, about playing nice. But you see it, don't you? That glimmer of fear behind their eyes, because they know you weren't made for a cage. They want you tamed, softened, dull, because the wild ones, the untamed, they set fire to the rules. They shatter the chains. They refuse to bow. And that terrifies them. So they'll call you difficult. They'll say you're too much, too intense, too loud, too reckless. But tell me, when has a lion ever apologized for roaring? When has a storm ever asked permission before it raged? They wish you'd shrink, fit neatly inside their fragile world, where everything stays predictable and safe. But you were never meant to be safe. You were meant to shake the ground beneath their feet. You've felt it, haven't you? That pressure, that weight, the whispers telling you to tone it down, to blend in, to play the part they wrote for you. But every time you try, something inside you fights back because you weren't built for their mold. And here's the best part. No matter how much they want to tame you, they can't. They never could. Because that fire inside you, that wild, untouchable madness that makes them so nervous, that's the part of you they fear the most. So let them try, let them wish, let them waste their breath telling you who you should be. Because the moment you stop apologizing for the storm inside you, that's the moment they realize they never had control to begin with. And that is when you smile, when you walk away, leaving them standing in the ruins of the world they tried to build around you. Because you weren't made to be tamed. You were made to be unstoppable. They flinch when you speak. Their voices drop to whispers when you enter the room. You see it in their eyes. The hesitation, the uncertainty, the quiet little tremor in their hands when they shake yours. Intimidation. That's what they call it. But let's be honest. That's just another word for power. Power they can't control. Power they don't understand. And what do people fear the most? The unknown. The force they can't predict, can't tame, can't twist into something comfortable for them. They'll try to twist it, of course. Call it arrogance, call it aggression. Say you're too much, too intense, too sharp around the edges. But listen closely. What they really mean is, you don't bend. And that makes them nervous. You see, the weak. Oh, they love a monster they can leash. They worship power when it bows, when it obeys. But raw, unfiltered, unapologetic presence, that's a different story. That makes them sweat. So they'll demand that you soften, that you dim the fire in your eyes, that you round out those sharp edges until you're safe, palatable, easy to swallow. But tell me, why should a storm ask permission before it thunders? The truth is, they don't hate your presence. They hate what it reminds them of. That no matter how many masks they wear, how many illusions they spin, there are forces in this world that can't be controlled. And you are one of them. That's why they stare when you walk past. That's why they stumble over their words when you speak. That's why they hesitate, because deep down they know. You don't ask for space, you own it. And let me tell you a little secret. The ones who try the hardest to shrink you, they're the ones most terrified of what you might become if you stopped holding back. Imagine that. So let them talk. Let them choke on their discomfort. Let them fumble for words while you stand there, unmoved. Because intimidation, that's just another word for the power they never saw coming. Chaos. Most people fear it. They like their neat little worlds, their predictable routines, their well-rehearsed lines. They cling to control like it's a life raft, praying nothing disturbs the fragile balance they've built. But you don't live in their world. You are the disturbance. You don't have to scream. You don't have to wave your arms or throw a punch. No. The real power, it's in stillness. In the way you walk into a room and every conversation stumbles. Every laugh dies in their throat. Just a glance, just a smirk, and suddenly they're shifting in their seats. Unpredictability, that's your weapon. The most dangerous thing in the world isn't a loaded gun, it's a person no one can quite figure out. Someone who doesn't follow the script. Someone who doesn't react the way they expect. That's what makes their hearts race. They wonder what's going on in your head. What's your next move? And that's the fun part. Because you don't give them answers. You let them drown in their own paranoia. You let them fill in the blanks with their own fears. And trust me, The things they imagine, far worse than anything you could say. See, power isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about knowing when to speak and when to let the silence do the talking. It's about the pause before a word, the slight tilt of your head, the way your eyes linger just a second too long. It's about making them feel like prey before you even lift a finger. A storm doesn't announce itself with a scream. It builds, it looms, it waits, and by the time they realize what's coming, it's already too late. That's controlled chaos, not reckless, not desperate, calculated. A mind sharper than any blade, a presence heavier than any fist. And oh, how they crumble under it. They trip over their words, over their thoughts, over themselves. You don't have to push them. They fall all on their own. That's the beauty of it. You just watch. So let them talk. Let them squirm. Let them write their own horror stories about you in their heads, because when they don't know what you're capable of, they assume everything. And that is true power. Oh, there's always one. The brave little idiot. The one who thinks they're special. The one who looks at you and decides, I can take them down. Foolish. Predictable. Like a moth fluttering toward the flame, believing somehow this time will be different. They step up, chest puffed out, voice a little too loud. Their hands twitch, their breath quickens, but oh, they try to hide it. 'Cause that's the game, isn't it? They have to prove something. They have to show the world that you're not as untouchable as you seem, that you're just another person. But you're not. And they find out the hard way. See, these people, they mistake your silence for weakness. They mistake your smirk for permission. They think just because you don't react, you don't see. But oh, you see everything. Every flicker of doubt in their eyes, every hesitation in their step. They think they have control, but you own the whole damn stage. You don't need to argue. You don't need to raise your voice. Hell, you don't even need to lift a finger. You just exist, and it's enough to break them. Because intimidation, it's not about proving your strength. It's about letting them destroy themselves trying to test it. So they swing, maybe with words, maybe with fists, maybe with petty little schemes. And you just watch. You let them flail, let them reach, let them miss. You let them exhaust themselves trying to rattle you. But they never do. They never can. Because strength, it isn't loud, it isn't reckless, it isn't desperate, it's controlled. It's knowing you don't have to chase respect. It's knowing you don't have to demand power. You are power. And power doesn't beg. And when they finally realize, when they see that all their barking, all their bravado, all their little attempts mean nothing to you, that's when they break. That's when the fear creeps in. That's when they understand. So let them challenge you. Let them try. Let them make fools of themselves, clawing at a throne they will never sit on. And when the dust settles, when they're standing there, exposed, humiliated, defeated, you don't even need to say a word. Just smile. Let them feel it. Let them remember it. Because nothing haunts the weak more than the moment they realize they were never strong enough to stand against you. First, they laugh. Oh, they love to laugh. The whispers behind your back, the smug little smirks, the way they dismiss you like you're just another forgettable face in the crowd. They think they know you. They think you're harmless, predictable, small, and then something shifts. Maybe it's the way you carry yourself. Maybe it's the way you don't flinch when they throw their little jabs. Maybe it's the fact that you never react the way they expect. Whatever it is, it unsettles them. It gnaws at them. Suddenly the laughter stops. The whispers turn to caution. The smirks fade into uneasy glances. Fear. Oh, it creeps in so beautifully, doesn't it? They won't admit it, of course. No, no, no. That would be too honest, too raw. So they call it something else. They call you arrogant, intimidating, too much. But what they really mean is, you scare them. And fear is the foundation of respect. See, weak people respect only what they fear losing. Their comfort, their control, their fragile little illusions. And when you shatter those illusions, when they realize they can't read you, can't break you, can't touch you, that's when respect begins. But it's not the kind of respect they give willingly. Oh no, it's forced out of them, dragged from their throats like a confession they never wanted to make, because they have no other choice. They can't fight what they can't predict. They can't mock what doesn't care. And they can't ignore what dominates the room without saying a word. They won't like respecting you. It'll burn them up inside, but they will, because fear makes people pay attention. It makes them listen. It makes them move when you say move and stop when you say stop. So let them doubt you, let them mock, let them try to belittle what they don't understand, because soon, sooner than they'd like, that doubt turns into hesitation. That hesitation turns into silence. That silence is the sound of respect they never wanted to give, but now it belongs to you. Own it. Every stare, every hushed whisper, every nervous glance when you enter the room, that tension in the air, that little pulse of uncertainty, it belongs to you. You created it, and you don't owe anyone an apology for it. They want you to shrink, to soften the edges, to dim the fire so they don't have to squint in its glow. But tell me, when has fire ever apologized for burning? When has a storm ever asked permission to tear through the sky? You are not here to make them comfortable. That is not your job. Let them shift in their seats. Let them stammer through their words. Let them feel the weight of your presence pressing down on their fragile little egos. That's their burden to carry, not yours. Because the moment you start shrinking to fit their comfort, you lose. The moment you start watering yourself down to be more digestible, you hand them your power on a silver platter, and they'll gladly take it. Oh, they'll eat it up. But why should you serve anyone? Why should you bend when you were meant to stand tall, when you were born to shake the ground beneath their feet? They will call you names, they will paint you as the villain, too intense, too much, too different. But the truth is they only call you these things because they can't control you. And what people can't control, they fear. So own it, wear it like armor. Let them talk, let them guess. Let them choke on their discomfort, because while they waste their energy trying to figure you out, you'll already be 10 steps ahead, unbothered, untamed, unstoppable. And when they finally realize that nothing they do can break you, that's when the fun really begins. They can whisper all they want, throw their sideways glances, convince themselves it's all in their heads, but deep down, in that little pit of fear they try so hard to ignore, they know. And so do you. Oh, they'll act like it's nothing, like you don't shake them to their core, like their hands don't clench just a little too tight when you pass by. But the body never lies. The stiffness in their shoulders, the way their breath hitches for just a second, the way they keep their backs to the wall when you're near, as if you might strike at any moment. And that's the best part, isn't it? You don't have to do a thing. You don't have to yell. You don't have to threaten. You don't have to lift a single finger, because your presence alone is the storm before the thunder, the shadow in the doorway, the moment right before the blade is drawn. They don't know what to expect, and that is what keeps them on edge. Because a controlled fire is safe, a predictable enemy can be handled, but you are an enigma, a force without a leash, a fire that chooses when to burn. They fear what they can't label, what they can't define. They fear those who walk outside the lines, who refuse to be tamed. And no matter how much they try to deny it, deep down, they envy it. Because they have spent their entire lives begging for permission, playing by the rules, blending in. But you refuse to bow. You refuse to be predictable. You refuse to be controlled. And that makes you unstoppable. So let them talk. Let them flinch. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Let them fear. Because fear is just another form of respect. And respect is not given, it is taken. So take it. Wear it. Own it. Let them tremble in your presence. Because while they sit there second-guessing, tiptoeing, choking on their own insecurities, you will already be miles ahead, laughing. Oh yes, laughing. Because in the end, it was never a game they could win.